welcome back to Perkins Pipes. Got a fun episode today, breaking out the estate Denmark, unmarked in other ways, but it says made in Denmark. Absolutely love the grain on this billiard. Got something fun today, so let's get this guy lit and let's get to talking. That does taste good. That's the my good old favorite, Prince Albert. Love that. Love it. Good old codger blend. So the discerning viewer will notice a couple things about what I'm wearing. I'm wearing my striper ball cap. Metal band from the 80s. Still recording, still touring. In fact, playing better than ever. A lot of people would say the lead singer Michael Sweet's voice has held up remarkably. Also, maybe notice that I'm wearing my deep purple t-shirt. So this is a rock and roll episode. And I want to talk about the longest running advertisement for a rock album ever. And I'm 100% convinced of this. I know this for a fact. This album was originally advertised in, I don't know if it was the 20s, the 30s, somewhere when this album started to be advertised, but somewhere in there. Maybe even as late as the 1940s, certainly before any members of the band were even born. And you say, well, how in the world could they advertise an album before the members of the band were even born? Well, the album itself did not come out until 1993. Here it is, 2024, and it is still being advertised. So I'm thinking this album has been advertised across, I don't know, 70, maybe 80 years, which is really quite extraordinary, don't you think? You got to ask, what in the world is he talking about? Well, I'm talking about a release from 1993 that a lot of people will recognize, or a lot of people who know this album think is one of the best albums ever. And I am talking about the only album ever released by David Coverdale and Jimmy Page. Coverdale Page. Now, I'm, of course, joking about the advertisement, but what you'll notice is the road sign, which, at least here in America, is a W4-1R style of road sign. Had to look that up. Indicates merging traffic, which is entirely appropriate given who these two artists are. Well, this is the CD. I've never had it on vinyl. I have seen on eBay, there is a beautiful blue, translucent blue vinyl. Would love to get that sometime. This thing's really cool. I thought the CD was cool. The CD was black. Actually, when I owned this album the first time, the C and P for Coverdale Page was actually embossed on the CD. Along the way, ended up not having that CD anymore and had to repurchase it. And, oh my goodness, this is a phenomenal album. So let's talk about it a little bit. So the Coverdale of Coverdale Page is none other than David Coverdale. Had a band called the Fabulosa Brothers, messing around in North Yorkshire in England. He was born in Saltburn by the Sea, 1951, and worked at a men's boutique in Redcar. When he saw an ad in Melody Maker for Deep Purple needing a new lead singer. Ian Gillan, the second lead singer they had in the what's called the Mark II lineup of Deep Purple, had left the band, and actually so had Roger Glover, the bassist. And so in 1973, Deep Purple brought in really a young unknown David Coverdale on lead vocals, and also Glenn Hughes, who was from a band called Trapeze, on bass, and then he also did some vocals as well. Coverdale recorded 3 albums with Deep Purple. The second one was Stormbringer, and then the album Come Taste the Band with Tommy Bolin on guitar after Ritchie Blackmore had left the band. Band broke up after that. David Coverdale went to Germany as a tax exile to get away from some of England's taxes. Recorded a couple of solo albums, an album titled White Snake, 2 words, White Snake, in 1977, and then an album called North Winds. Then in 1978, he formed a new band with some members of Deep Purple. Ian Pace on drums, John Lord on keyboards, called Whitesnake, all one word, Whitesnake. And many people know the band Whitesnake, certainly big 80s hair metal band, MTV darlings. Had quite a good career before that, in the late 70s, early 80s, much more of a blues hard rock band. A lot of people really prefer that sound. And Coverdale's still doing stuff. The Page, of course, is none other than James Patrick Page, Jimmy Page, from Led Zeppelin. And what needs to be said about Jimmy Page? Good grief. Session musician, played with the Yardbirds, then that became the New Yardbirds, and then that became Led Zeppelin. Really started at the same time as Deep Purple. Late 68 they formed, and then in 69 recorded their first album, Led Zeppelin 1. Now, a lot of people thought there was a comparison between, or they make a comparison between the lead singer of Led Zeppelin, Robert Plant, and David Coverdale. Plant himself made a comparison and derisively called David Coverdale David Cover version. And I got to be honest, I never really got that. There are a lot of people who think that Coverdale and Plant are very similar. Yeah, maybe they had a little bit of a similar look at one point. I don't think their voices are anything close to the same. And I love both of them. Well, as legend would have it, Coverdale met Jimmy Page, or walking down the street, met each other in, I think it was New York, started talking in the mid-90s, early to mid-90s, and said, hey, let's do something together. And the result was this extraordinary album, Coverdale Page. In fact, that's the only name. It's the name of the band, name of the album. And it has 11 tracks. It is a brilliant mix of Led Zeppelin and Deep Purple. I'm sorry, Led Zeppelin and Whitesnake, really. A lot of the layered sound, very complex sound that you would get from Led Zeppelin. Some of the lyrics are pure David Coverdale and straight out of Whitesnake. I mean, come on. The opening track is called Shake My Tree. So I think that's squarely in the Whitesnake camp of things. You've got Pride and Joy, which is definitely a rollicking kind of a song. Again, a little bit of a Whitesnakey feel to it. Certainly, track number 6, Feeling Hot. The boys are feeling hot tonight. Fingers crossed they get it right. Women to the left, women to the right. The boys are feeling hot tonight. Now, that's a Whitesnake lyric if ever there was one. Then you've got some really nice, beautiful ballads. Take Me For a Little While is just absolutely gorgeous. Easy Does It. Nice and Easy Does It is the 7th song. Easy Does It, Nice and Slow. I'll Take You Anywhere the Four Winds Blow. Beautiful song. Weep No More, My Lady. Don't You Cry. No, I Can't Paint Your Portrait When There's Tears in Your Eyes. Beautiful lyric. And quite frankly, again, very Whitesnake, very David Coverdale. Coverdale goes back and forth between, as even he would say, these chest-beating macho lyrics and some of the most gorgeous ballad lyrics that you could ever want. Typical blues stuff, bluesy lyrics, Waiting on You, Don't Leave Me This Way. Absolution Blues is a very, very bluesy number. Very, very rocked up blues, but still blues nonetheless. And then the last one, Whisper a Prayer for the Dying, is unlike anything I've ever heard Coverdale sing, before or after. Absolutely nothing like it in the, let me see if that's right. I would say there's nothing like it in his Deep Purple catalog, nothing like it in the Whitesnake catalog. I'm blanking for a moment, forgive me. Mark II lineup, Child in Time is probably about the closest. Child in Time was an anti-war song as the Mark II lineup of Deep Purple on the 1970 In Rock album. That'd be the closest thing I would say is to Whisper a Prayer for the Dying. Very, very anti-war sort of song. Here you've got the sign on the moon on the back cover there, and throughout the booklet, the guys put the sign here. Here's the merged sign in the Egyptian desert with the pyramids. Here you've got it even in the ocean, right? So they kind of got that going through there. Here in the front of the booklet is the Coverdale page logo that was, as I say, embossed on the original CD that I had. Wish I still had that. I ended up having to repurchase this sometime later. So like I say, people who are fans of Jimmy Page, people who are fans of David Coverdale, I really, really liked this album. And it stood up well now over 30 years. A lot of people were disappointed. David Coverdale had teased for a number of years that in 2023, for the 30th anniversary, he was going to release a box set. There's a couple of unreleased tracks, actually a couple that are floating around out there, and you can find them if you search hard enough on the internet. If I think about it, I'll put a link in the show notes for this. There's a song called Saccharine that they did that didn't make it on the album. So we know that there were some other songs that say kind of in the can. And Coverdale promised this album. Never happened. So I don't know if he's still planning to do that or not, but it's a solid piece of really good rock, really good music. Some good lyrics, beautiful lyrics, some rock and roll lyrics. Very Jimmy Page throughout the whole thing. You hear Page's stamp on absolutely everything. It is, I don't know if I want to say orchestral, but it is complex. There's some complex sounds going on in there. Highly recommend you check it out if you're a fan of any of these classic rock bands or any of these artists. I'm curious if you've heard of this album, if you heard of Coverdale Page, if you knew it back in the day. If you have, do you like it? What do you think about it? So there is a little review of that. As Malcolm Guite likes to say, I do these little things in order at last to do nothing. Or as I say in Latin, Parva ago ut tandem, nihil agam. Have a wonderful day.